Hey everyone, my name is Matt and welcome back to the farm. In today's video, we're going to work on the Super M here and we're going to try to figure out the charging system, but we're also going to figure out just which one of these digital multimeters is junk. I'd also like to maybe get the log splitter down here in the shop and go through that and get that ready to go because we're going to be cutting and splitting some firewood here before long. We got 3 voltmeters here that we're working with. This one here is the one I believe, or I suspect, is giving me the false readings. This one here is honestly a cheap Harbor Freight version. I had a nice Mac one for a lot of years, but that one quit working and I wasn't going to spend the big money to either replace it with another Mac one or even have that one fixed. So I shamelessly went and bought this thing and I'm probably going to regret spending the money on it. This one here is a Craftsman. This one is a volt ohm and it's also an amp clamp. I use this for testing glow plug circuits. You can tell if a glow plug is working or not based on how much amperage it draws or the total amperage in a circuit on initial voltage input to those glow plugs. So that's what I primarily use that for. The third meter that's going to even everything out here and figure out which one of these is theoretically bad is this brand new meter. This is my neighbor's meter. He's letting me borrow it for today. This is brand new. I don't know much about it. It's a Klein Tools meter. So we're going to find out if I like this meter. Maybe I'll buy one of those. And if this one's a bad one, I'll throw that one in the junk. So let's figure out which one of those is the bad one. All right. So the first thing we're going to do, like we did before, is just get a baseline voltage reading with all 3 meters. So we're going to start with the Harbor Freight Special. This one says 12.8. Now for my Craftsman amp clamp meter, that one says 12.8 as well. And now for my neighbor's meter, get the leads untangled here. This one says 13 volts. So we got 2 that say 12.8 and 1 that says 13. Alright, with the first meter, we're going to see what we got. See if I can put this in a place that you guys can see it. That says 14.2 to 14.9, even sometimes 15 volts. Now we'll try the Craftsman amp clamp. This one says 12.1, 12.2. So that has no alternator output whatsoever. So let's try the third meter. This one says 12.3. Man, I had to get some gloves. The air coming off of that fan was pretty cold. So, as I suspected, these 2 meters gave me the same exact readings with the tractor running directly at the alternator. 12 volts, battery voltage, 12.2, 12.3. This meter was giving me 14 plus volts. Sometimes it would jump 15 volts. Why? I don't know, but it's the oddball out. It's the cheapest thing I got here. I think I got what I paid for. Putting the meters aside, I do believe the alternator is a problem, and here's why. The charging system on this tractor is pretty simple. You have an alternator, your voltage output back to the battery. Its regulator is self-contained within the alternator. It doesn't have an external voltage regulator. So it's a self-contained unit. The wiring is in all good shape. From the alternator, we have our amp gauge. Pretty simple. You have power in, you have power out. We know we have that because we tested it with a voltmeter before. So there's really no issue there. From there, it literally goes to the battery from wiring via going back to the starter and then back through the positive cable to the battery. Lastly, when it comes to the charging system, when I was doing the testing here at the battery, when I had a negative lead of the meter right directly to the casting of the tractor, I was getting 14 volts. When I went to the negative post on the battery, I was only getting 12.2, 12.3. That kind of threw me for a loop because it didn't make a whole lot of sense, because I really didn't think there was a problem with the negative cable going to the battery from the chassis, because the tractor starts and runs. The starting system on most anything is the highest amperage drawing circuit of that piece of equipment. On this tractor, I'm guessing it's probably around 100 amps that starter draws every time it turns the motor over. I really didn't think there was a problem, because if there was a problem with this cable, that's where you'd see it, is in the starting circuit, and the tractor just wouldn't want to start if we had a bad connection or a bad cable. So the fact that it would start and run but not charge, like I said, I think at least the main cables connecting to the battery were okay. Now we're going to put the hood back on this thing, seeing as we're not going to put an alternator on it right this minute, and I need it out of the shop. Now let's see how the hose is clear. Get the hood latched in place. Look at that. Hoses aren't even anywhere near the hood. We got a good ½ inch between the hose and the hood. Oh wait, we can't put that on until we get it out of the shop. That's right. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. Lastly, I had a viewer point out, and I'm glad he did, because I might have ran into a pretty good problem if I had left it this way. I gotta take this plug out, and I do have to put a piece of pipe back in here, and I'll show you why. This cap that goes on that hydraulic reservoir plays a critical role, and I didn't realize it at the time, but there's a hole in this cap. That hole allows the hydraulic system to vent. It allows it so it can't draw a suction while it's trying to pick up hydraulic oil, but it also prevents pressure from building up inside this hydraulic reservoir. So I thank the viewer that pointed that out to me and saved me a huge headache. So this is how we're going to leave it for now. All right, the hydraulic fluid level is where it ought to be. We rechecked that, so we're ready to get this thing out of the shop. Now we can put the muffler on. Yeah, that's a little quieter. I got somebody that's been itching to go drive this thing, so I'm gonna go let him take it for a spin, and we'll see how our repairs made out. Well, while he's burning up some gas, I gotta go make some room in the barn for her. Well, let's see if the old H is gonna run today. Well, that didn't sound promising. Neither does that. Guess I gotta let it warm up a little more. Well, maybe that was my one and only shot. Let's try it again. Look at that. We got his and her H's sitting right next to each other. We got his H, meaning my H, and then right next to that is Stacy's H. This is the one that I did a restoration on for Stacy as a wedding gift last spring and summer. We did a complete nut and bolt restoration on it. It's not 100% complete yet. There's a few things I want to wrap up on it, but it was done good enough for in time for the wedding. So we haven't had that out in a while, so maybe this winter sometime we'll get it out and give it a little exercise and put a little snow on the tires, but not today. Well, there she is. She's got a flat tire. It wasn't like that when I parked it in the spring. Not surprised. Hopefully we don't find any surprises in the form of critters as we go taking this thing off. Nothing yet. If you like this video so far and you haven't subscribed to our channel, please click on the subscribe button in the lower right hand corner of your screen. We greatly appreciate it. It would really help the growth of our channel. If you like this video and you haven't clicked the like button yet, please give it a thumbs up. We greatly appreciate it. This is a log splitter we use on the farm to split all our firewood. I've had this about 5 years or so now, but it actually has a pretty lengthy history with our family. My grandfather built this over 45 years ago. In that time frame, when I was a little kid, I don't remember much about it. Really nothing, to be honest with you. All I remember is growing up stories of my dad talking about using this, because by the time I was old enough to know better, my grandfather had sold this. Well, years went by, and 5 years ago, I was working on a four-wheeler for a guy about 3-4 roads over, and he asked me, he says, "What do you know about log splitters?" I said, "What do you got? What do you want to know?" He says, "Well, I got some hoses that need to be fixed." I says, "Let's go look at it." So I walked in, and as soon as I laid my eyes on it, the light bulb went off. So I started asking him questions, and by the time we got done talking, there was no doubt that this was my grandfather's log splitter. I took some pictures of it and I showed my dad, and he said, "Yep, that is for sure." And the only thing they had changed in that time period of when it left our family was the exhaust. My grandfather had a straight exhaust pipe off the manifold like you'd find on any normal tractor. But at some point it was converted to this horizontal exhaust with this small little muffler put on. Other than that, it was pretty well intact how my grandfather had built it. So I told the gentleman, if you ever want to sell it, I'd like to have first crack at it. He wasn't doing firewood anymore. He was kind of on the fence if he was ever going to get back into it. Well, 2 years after I laid my eyes on it for the first time, he called me up and he says, "I want to sell it. I want you to have it." He told me a price. I didn't even mess with him on price. I paid him exactly what he asked me for it. because in my mind, you couldn't put a price on a family heirloom. So it's back in the family. It's not going anywhere, and it's going to cut and split a lot of firewood for a lot of years to come here on our farm. All right, so let's see if we can get this thing running. First thing we got to do is turn the gas on. I must have really got after that the last time. Then we'll come over here and set the throttle to about half, 2/3, somewhere in there. Magneto, nothing has to be done with that. It's just got a grounding tab that you can push on to kill the engine. Well, she turns over, that's a good sign. Well, I guess it took more than the normal 5 or 6 cranks to get it running this time around. It is what it is. Once it does fire, it's always a crapshoot whether you get the right amount of choke with the right amount of throttle to finally hit that sweet spot and to finally get it running. But we got her. So now that it's been running, we're going to put it in the bottom side of the barn. So that way it's inside so we can hook on it and haul it out to the log pile when we're ever ready to cut and split firewood. So, hope you enjoyed today's video. We hope you have a great rest of your day. We'll see you next time. Don't want to forget to turn the gas off.